you're quite right that the president's silence on the murder of Deputy Sheriff Goforth is profoundly wrong. It is a manifestation of the divisiveness, of the partisanship, and of the hostility to law enforcement that has characterized the entire Obama administration.
Don't you remember when we could rely on an occupier of the Oval Office to be a unifying presence, to counsel the country when it was in grief and in mourning? And Barack Obama needs to go film a reality show in Alaska and push this global warming hoax. So we're left, as always, here in the state of Texas and those in the law enforcement community around the country, to fend for ourselves without any reassurance from the highest office in the land. I look at it as wrong, sir.
Well, you are exactly right. And it's all politics all the time. Instead of a commander-in-chief, we have a campaigner-in-chief. And the strategy of the campaign is at every turn to divide us on racial lines, to divide us on gender lines, to divide us on class lines. And it's just, it is fundamentally wrong. I mean, let's take an example. We remember the horrific shooting in Charleston, where tragically a racist bigot came into the Emmanuel AME church, prayed in that church for an hour, and then murdered 9 people. It's horrific. As a Christian, the idea that anyone could pray with people for an hour and then kill them really defies words. And yet, the next day, the families of those murdered stood up and demonstrated a remarkable display of Christian love and forgiveness when they stood up and said, "We forgive the murderer." I mean, what an amazing moment. And imagine if we had a president who, instead of trying to inflame us and divide us and exacerbate racial tensions, had highlighted the families that are saying, "We forgive this murderer." What a powerful moment to say, listen, there will always be hate in the world, there will always be evil in the world, but the values that unite us have never been more demonstrated than by those incredible family members who expressed love and forgiveness. That's what a president should be doing.
2016 GOP presidential candidate Senator Ted Cruz, my guest right now. And speaking of hate, Black Lives Matter coming out in Minnesota with that disgusting display about pigs in blankets. That's a way of saying cops in body bags. That's what they prefer. This FYF 911 podcast that's here in the state of Texas, calling for the lynching of white people and the killing of police officers. The Democrat National Committee just voted to support what I call Black Lives Matter. What's your take on that, Senator?
Well, Chris, much of this is the fruit of the divisiveness and vilification of law enforcement that we've seen throughout the Obama administration. Remember, right at the beginning of the administration, you had the instance in Cambridge that culminated in the so-called beer summit, where the president immediately took the view that the police must be wrong, must be vilified, and that has continued through Baltimore, continued through Ferguson. It continued through the Obama administration nominating to a senior Department of Justice position a lawyer who had volunteered to represent for free a cop killer. And I was proud to help lead the opposition in the Senate to that nomination. We defeated it in the Senate. Even Democrats decided that was too much. They couldn't stand with President Obama when he's putting the lawyer for a cop killer in a senior position in the Department of Justice. But let me tell you, I am proud to stand with law enforcement. I'm proud to stand with the cops and the firefighters and the EMS workers and the first responders who risk their lives every day. And it is fundamentally wrong, the rhetoric, the hatred, the vilification that is being directed at law enforcement from the president, from the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, and from this administration. And the consequence of it is coming home. We are seeing crime rates spike in major cities across this country because the police officers are responding to this vilification and pulling back. If they're told, if you do your job, you'll be scapegoated, you may lose your job, you may lose everything you have, naturally the police pull back, and that's a very good thing for the murderers and the rapists and the robbers, but it's a terrible thing for the law-abiding citizens.
You are coming home. By the way, we're talking with 2016 GOP presidential candidate, our senator from the great state of Texas, Senator Ted Cruz. You're coming home. You're headed to Tyler this Thursday for an event, 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 5 at Smith's Lone Star Event Center. What's on the docket there?
Well, we would encourage everyone in East Texas to come out and join us in Tyler. And this is a rally. It's a rally for the presidential campaign. We're doing a day where we're starting in Fort Worth at 11 a.m. at the Fort Worth Stockyards, then 3:30 at Tyler at Smith's Lone Star Event Center, and then we're ending the day in Kingwood, Texas, at the Nathaniel Center. And every one of them are rallies from the grassroots focusing on our presidential campaign. And I'll tell you, Chris, the energy and enthusiasm we're seeing is incredible. You know, following the Cleveland debate, we had an enormous burst of momentum. We had our fundraising exploded. In the 100 hours that followed that Cleveland debate, we raised $1.1 million as people all over the country went to tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. They contributed online. They signed up to volunteer. We did a bus tour through the South, through what's called the SEC primary, all on Super Tuesday, joining Texas on March 1st. We had over 19,000 people come out for the bus tour.
Well,
and
man,
the momentum is incredible. And
I can hardly wait to get folks out there to Tyler to see you speak. I wish I could talk to you for about 10, 15 more minutes, Senator, but we're out of time here on the Chris Salcedo Show. So give the web address, please, sir, to your campaign, and we'll have to say adieu.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Chris. It's tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. Please go sign up, contribute, volunteer, join us. We're building a grassroots army, and I'm really encouraged because people are ready for a consistent conservative who will stand for the Constitution and stand for freedom.
Senator Ted Cruz, everybody, here on the Chris Salcedo Show.